Hi everyone, this is the final Bosman. Thanks for coming over. On today's episode, I'm going to try out a new segment, and then I have a big announcement. Let's get started. Welcome to the show. I'm Kyle Bosman, of course. Often when there's a big issue, I have a hard time feeling completely opinionated one way or the other because I'm the type of person who honestly tries to see both sides. But I realize that's not a compelling thing to watch. So today's segment is called Kyle Choose a Side. BioShock Infinite versus The Last of Us. BioShock Infinite and The Last of Us are two of the biggest games of the first half of this year and maybe for the rest of the year. An interesting thing about both of these games is that their main characters are a male and a female couple who are not necessarily romantically interested in each other. Another interesting thing about how these games are different is one game's female gets to be on the cover and the other one is relegated to the back of the box. One of these two games is doing it wrong, and it's now time for me to choose a side. The case for BioShock Infinite is interesting because Ken Levine, the game's creative director, openly admits that he doesn't like the cover. In an interview with Wired's Chris Kohler, he says that the cover is not for us, the type of people who like video games enough to read IGN. We are too informed. We don't need to be advertised to necessarily because we already know that the game is good to great and they could put like a hippo butt on the cover and we'd still buy it. The cover is for who he calls the uninformed, the frat houses, the type of people who don't look at video games until they're in a store and they're on the shelf. And I realize that that's frustrating language, but I see where he's coming from. BioShock Infinite cost a lot of money to develop. There's a lot of financial investment into this game. And frankly, putting Elizabeth on the cover of the game is a financial risk because there is a number of potential buyers who simply won't buy a game with a woman on the cover. The idea is to get the game itself into as many hands as possible. What does the wrapping paper matter when everyone is receiving the same message? Also, I don't know if we, the fans, would have picked a better cover. Irrational let us vote on the cover that we would like for the reversible cover, and look at this thing. I think we kind of blew it, everyone. I don't know if we did a good job with this. This is one ugly box. And so, maybe Irrational knew the best all along. The case for The Last of Us is that Ellie is a main character and should therefore obviously be on the cover. In an Escapist interview, we learned that Naughty Dog hired this marketing firm who told them that the girl should get off the cover and probably showed them a lot of the same numbers and statistics that were shown to Ken Levine. And so I think there's something brave about saying, no thanks, marketing experts, we want our girl on the cover. And so I guess you can see where I'm going. I have to side with Naughty Dog on this one. When I sat down to write this episode, I honestly didn't know whom I was going to end up siding with. But as I read more and more interviews with Ken Levine about BioShock Infinite, I started seeing a startling recurrence. Ken Levine wants BioShock Infinite to sell a lot more than the original BioShock. He craves cultural significance. And he's been talking about frat houses from before this whole cover art nonsense. In a Polygon interview, he recalls an internal study that was done at a frat house full of frat guys, where they were asked, how many of you have played Call of Duty? And apparently everyone raised a hand. And then they were asked, how many of you have played Halo? And again, apparently everyone raised a hand. And then they were asked, how many of you have played BioShock? And then there were no hands. And then they asked, how many of you have heard of BioShock? And again, no hands. I have no problem with frat guys, and the reason these people probably haven't heard of BioShock most likely has nothing to do with cover art. Fraternities exist so these people can socialize for 4 years, and that's probably why they don't care about single-player experiences. Call of Duty is a primarily multiplayer game, and so is Halo, and so is Mario Kart, and that's probably why they won't like BioShock anything. And I guess what I'm afraid of is that Ken Levine's misguided attempt to appeal to frat guys may have not stopped at the cover art. It may have crawled into the actual game design itself. I mean, if you look at that BioShock cover, it's a dude with a gun, and you assume this is a game about shooting dudes. And a lot of BioShock Infinite is about shooting dudes. It's a lot of throwing bullets into these police officers who are running at you with a baton. I don't honestly think that this cover is misrepresenting anything. I want to believe in an alternate universe where Elizabeth is on the cover and that you never have to rescue her in the entire game. And so, how can you not root for this game on the other side? Naughty Dog with The Last of Us is essentially gambling on our tastes. They're gambling on us as opposed to the weirdos who walk into a store and go home with the game with the toughest looking guy on the box. They are allowing their game to be advertised as a game with a girl in it, and they're prepared to take whatever financial hit comes with that. I know a lot of us are probably tired of hearing about gender inequality in video games, but here, Naughty Dog isn't talking about it, they're just doing something about it. They're choosing their own vision instead of chasing a demographic that probably won't like their video game anyway. And I think they should be commended for that. And on that note, I'd like to take this opportunity to world debut the official box art for a little game I've been working on. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to show off for the first time ever the cover art for Philip Dollarfield Saves the Princess. It's coming to the Xbox 360 in 2014, so look out for it. Anyway, that is the end of the show. Thank you for watching. You may have noticed a couple of new names behind me. These two people are the first two to call me out on saying a couple of words that are on my no-no rules of don't say these words list. Congratulations to Tralfamadorian and Fagio. That one makes me super nervous. And I'm mad this guy's in my close-up. Next episode, I'm gonna move you down a couple of bricks, Tralfamadorian. I hope you don't mind. Anyway, the big announcement. The show is going weekly. The Final Bosman is going to be on every single Wednesday for the rest of all time, and I'm very excited about that. The way we're going to schedule this out is there will be 3 Final Bosmans and 1 mini Bosman in a month. May has 5 Wednesdays, so we'll see how that works out. I'm very excited, and I know that I owe it to you, the viewer, the commenter, the thumbs upper, the Facebook sharer, and I'm very grateful to you for being so supportive of this show, this whole run. Please leave a comment on this show. Let me know what you thought of it. Also, leave a comment. I'm curious how you guys would have voted if you had to choose between the money of BioShock Infinite and the voice of The Last of Us. Because I honestly do see both sides. I mean, Ken Levine's not a stupid person, and I see where he's coming from. Also, if you belong to a fraternity and you know what BioShock is, please comment, because I have to believe you're out there. I know you're out there. Please let us know you exist. And that is the end of this episode. I will be back here next Wednesday. Thank you for watching. So let's just start off with this. Raise your hand if you've heard of Call of Duty. Okay. Raise your hand if you've heard of Grand Theft Auto. Okay. Raise your hand if you've heard of Super Mario. Raise your hand if you've heard of Philip Dollarfield Saves the Princess.
Never heard of that in my life.
Okay. How many times in a month do you walk into a store, pick up a game you've never seen before, and purchase that game for full price?
0.
Do you think that maybe that's because the cover isn't interesting enough?
No, I don't think anyone does that.
Wait a second. Do you go to IGN.com?
Occasionally.
You get out of here, you're too smart. We don't want you in the study. I only care what normal people think about my video game. You're not normal, because you go to IGN.com.
See all of our shows and game reviews now on the brand new GT app on Xbox Live, and the GT Originals iOS app too.